Look what it says. It says, likewise, when a foreigner, in other words, an unbeliever, someone who is not in the family of God, when a foreigner who is not of your people Israel comes from a far country for your name's sake, look at this, for they shall hear of your great name. How do they hear of his great name? It says it right here. And your mighty hand and your outstretched arm. In other words, because of all the things that he's done, people are starting to get ear of this great God. They're starting to be intrigued by this great name. And then it says this, when he comes and prays, this foreigner, when he comes and prays towards this house, here in heaven, your dwelling place, and do according to all for which the foreigner calls to you. That's a bold prayer by Solomon. In order that all the peoples of the earth may know your name and fear you, as do your people Israel, and that they may know that this house that I've built is called by your name. See, what's happening here, the foreigner was supposed to hear about this prayer-answering God, and as a result, come and experience this prayer-answering God as well. I think the same is true today. The most powerful witness that we have in the church towards people who aren't in the church, foreigners, unbelievers, is simply sharing how faithful God has been, how strong his arms have been in your life, how merciful he's been in your life, how faithful he's been to you. And through your story, they'll lean in and listen and say, I want to know about that great name. It's one of the purposes of the temple, that it wasn't supposed to be just a refuge for the people that are inside of it. It was supposed to be a vehicle of salvation for the people that were outside of it. That's us. That's us. I got a great story to share. Why don't you guys come up?
Well, from the beginning, I was born in 1959. I didn't really have a dad when I grew up. He was mean. He beat up my mom a lot. At age 12, he came home and he said, put nude on my lap. He said, you play baseball? And I said, yes, I do. He said, I'm going to be here tomorrow, watch you play a game. Yeah, that's my dad, he lies. He ain't any good. Well, 2 o'clock in the morning, my brother comes up, says, your dad just died downstairs.
And Nate, how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I just happen to have 12 brothers. Oh, wait a minute, that even gets better. I have 12 sisters. I have 24 brothers and sisters.
Yeah. And then a few years ago, right, you came to the church. How did you come to the church? The Shingle House Alliance Church.
Well, I was sick. I had Parkinson's, I had diabetes, and I was an alcoholic. My dad was, so I guess I could be too. So I went to church. I sat there in the corner all by myself. A good friend come up and grabbed me and says, come on. We went up front. We prayed, and that's when I first started.
So this was about 3 years ago. The church was struggling still. There came a point in time where...
Oh, yeah, we only had 7 in there.
Yeah.
And, well, I didn't want this. I didn't want the pain. I didn't want any of this up here. Not in Shingle House.
We weren't really sure whether or not they were going to go for it. I think I was in Olean, maybe hearing Pastor Andy preach one time when he was preaching over there in Olean during the summer last year. And we asked them to come to the Wellsville campus to watch the video, just to kind of check things out, and then meet with our leadership team downstairs in the fellowship hall just for lunch and ask any questions. I said, after I got back from Olean, how'd it go? He's like, well, yeah, it's pretty good, but he doesn't tell me all the details, so I got to pull it out of him a lot of times. So I said, well, no, really, how'd it go? And he said, well, pretty good, except for there was this one guy who threw his keys on the table and stormed out, and not sure if they're going to go for this or not.
I knew Nate was struggling. I know that these transitions it's not an easy thing. And he was struggling with that. I think a lot of people were. And I just told him, I'll be praying for you. And I told him, I know it seems like it's a hostile takeover. But this is a good thing. We want to come in and see the church grow. And he still left, and I stood outside for a second when he left, and I just remember, I felt like God was wanting me to pray for him. And so I just stood right there for a minute before I went back inside, and I prayed for Nate.
As he just shared, he has Parkinson's disease. And but you were saying that you're constantly seeing him mow the lawn, right? and do things behind the scenes of the church.
Well, actually, Nate and I had a conversation last week, 2 weeks ago. He stopped and mowed, and then he stopped in the church, and we talked for a little while, and he was just saying how much God has been doing for him, how awesome it is to see, our church, and he's really digging in, and he's like, you can't get me to leave this place. And honestly, I started to choke up a little bit there, but I told Nate, I was like, man, what an awesome thing from the moment, looking back, when you threw your keys on the table in frustration to now.
Yeah.
And I said, if you think about it, there were some of the people that were from the remnant who were, I'm sure at one point, because Nate's still kind of a young Christian, you've been saved for 2-3 years, right?
3 years.
I'm assuming that some of the remnant were trying to get Nate to hang on, trying to get him to stay, come to church, and get connected to them, and stay in the Word. And to see Nate, a young Christian, filling the role now for those people, it just was like, it punched me, and it made me choke up.
Amen. Thank you, guys. Awesome story. God can do what we can't do. God knows how to fill in all those gaps and accomplish what we have no ability to accomplish. God knows how to tug on people's hearts that you've been praying for and actually get them to church. And actually see a guy who was an alcoholic a few years ago come to the altar and be saved and experience God's grace, and now being a part of a church that does that for others. We're to be a refuge for the weak and a light to the lost. And the only way that's going to happen is through prayer.